How did your high school crush turn out as an adult? Became a professional cheerleader, died of breast cancer at 34. Googling names from high school is crazy. Added to add, thanks for all the support Reddit family. I'm also surprised how many on here know her, and in a way makes me feel better that such a beautiful girl did make an impact on people's hearts and assured me she is not forgotten. I don't know about you guys, but I had way too many crushes in high school. His friend murdered him over a girl. She ended up dating and marrying the guy who bullied me all through middle school and high school. They seem like a functional family from what I see on social media. My English teacher still looks fine as FK. Hedge fund manager with a trophy wife. My high school ex randomly sent me a text years after we split up that when I know you don't like metal, but I thought you'd like this, and a link to a clarinet cover of a metal song I played in HS. Little did he know that I hated playing clarinet and I was now a total metalhead. I briefly worked with mine and didn't realize it was her until I left for another job. She looked almost unrecognizable, but it was 15 years after I last saw her. She's married with a couple of kids now, so pretty standard life I guess. My only GF in high school was my crush. Her mom banned her from dating me after about a year because my GF admitted to her mom that we were fooling around. This was about 20 years ago. She's still living with her mom, no kids, and as far as I know never again dated seriously after her mom broke us up. Still has the same job from high school too. It's like her mom went way into protective overdrive and my former GF never grew up. Making me wonder what I ever saw in them. You made me check, and she is actually a very successful artist and an art teacher at a renowned university in France. She even got decorated for her work. Chevalier des Arts et des Lettres. Edit. Thanks for the attention. I'm not really willing to give much more details. I'm just going to add that she's French and she's not teaching in Paris. Overdosed and died last year. I got to see him before he was taken off life support with a really good mutual friend we shared. Organ donor too. It was surreal seeing him dwarfed by all these machines. He had won the largest hearts I've ever come across. Edit. Graduated back in the early 2000s and last year, 2019, WTF is time even anymore. Still super hot. She married some loser and has a few kids with him. That loser was me. Just celebrated 22 years of marriage. Still a 10 for looks. I'm sure she kept on as the amazing, kind person she is. She moved to another country, speaks multiple languages and is more successful than I imagined. She seems happy, but we haven't talked since the time I told her how I felt about her about 20 years ago. Went on to be a teenaged model for hair products, graduated from Yale, toured Europe, opened her own successful ceramics company that is sold worldwide and is often written up in magazines. Makes me feel like shit every time I think of her. Hot douche who doesn't really do much except go to the gym. To be fair, that's how he was in high school. I just liked it back then. I was a freshman and had a crush on a senior. To add to it, she was a cheerleader and her brother played QB for the football team, and got a college scholarship. She showed up at a football game a couple of years later with a baby in tow. She's married now and back in her hometown. That's about all I know. She ended up getting knocked up by a freshman shortly after we graduated. My first high school crush who sat next to me in freshman year English was a really cute punk rock girl, and she's gone on to become an incredibly hot fitness model. Pretty good. Seems to have her life together, although she had a few setbacks. She's gone back to uni since job prospects in her field kinda sucked, but seems to be really enjoying it. She's dating me though, so clearly her judgment sucks. One I don't keep track of at all. I'm not sure what she's up to. The other I married. She turned out awesome. She's still hot, successful and wealthy entrepreneur, and married someone with the same first name as me and who quit his job to brew beer. I crushed on her for a bit, didn't think she was interested so I dated others, then come to find out she crushed on me senior year. I was too dumb and blind. We connected freshman year of college, she wrote me letters, and by the time I wised up she had moved on. No one to blame but myself. Going to an all-boys school sucks for having realistic crushes. However, ran into one of the teachers years later and she still looked bellissima. Hess doing good for himself. Hess grown emotionally, has a seemingly healthy relationship with a longtime girlfriend, and is working healthfully on all his career and personal goals. Found her on Tinder, she said I was hot. Pointed out that I was that loser she used to know in high school. Had a big laugh. Been a little over a year. Now we send each other memes and hang out occasionally when the pandemic isn't being a bitch. Ended up committing suicide a few years after high school. She was a teacher and got caught having an affair with a female student. Just checking in to confirm that I was no one's high school crush. Carry on. Mine was my best friend. She turned out to be a pedophile. She always liked younger guys. Like when she was 17 she had a 13-year-old boyfriend, which was weird, but we were kids and I didn't think about it much. Turns out she continued to like younger teens as she grew into her 20s and 30s. An insanely talented molecular biology researcher at Boston. And she's still insanely attractive. She passed away our senior year, 6 months after she agreed to marry me after we graduated. Frown. My friend's high school crush was Tom Holland. Like they went to the same school. There was a girl I really admired for a while. She didn't really give me the time of day after freshman year though. She was co-valedictorian and hugged me as I crossed the stage at graduation, and no one else got one. I'm still really confused about that 6 years later. She went on to med school and is either married or at least engaged to a guy she met there. Overall she's doing really well, and I'm happy for her. I had 3, 1 from the first 2 years and 2 from the last 2. The first one is now F2M trans, who walked to Colorado to join a cult/commune. He is now in Arizona recording rap albums. The second girl moved to Florida and lives in a swamp. She periodically hits me up to tell me she misses me, how dumb I was that I didn't follow through, that we should get married. The third was a missionary. She wasn't really into it once she grew up, came back home and I introduced her to one of my closest friends. They've been married for 15 years. 03. I never made a move in high school. About 7 years after graduating, I saw her on social media and said what the hell and asked her out. We've been dating for about 2 years and I'm about to pop the big question. They both ended up as great guys. One has a huge family and is a minister. The other only has 1 child and is a college professor. Both married nice people and are happy. They were really good guys in high school and ended up being really good adults. I've got both of them on Facebook and we keep in touch peripherally as we stayed friends over the years. About to be my fiancée if all goes well. Found out she was fat and unattractive. Then I realized I was too. I had several. One of them is still a close friend, and he became a primary care doctor. He also officiated my wedding. I have no idea what happened to another one. We didn't really have overlapping friend groups and she doesn't do social media. One of them is a math professor now, so that's pretty cool. My biggest crush in high school was my longtime neighbor, but it also fizzled out pretty quickly after we went to homecoming together. We're still good friends, and our families still keep in touch. Hess also the guy who introduced me to my husband. Very well. He joined the military and served for a number of years, was in after Vietnam and out before the Gulf War, so I'm not sure if he actually saw much active duty, and then settled in Korea where he trained in Taekwondo and did a lot of professional fighting, and won a lot of awards. Attained the rank of Grandmaster and returned to the US and opened a very successful school that specializes in TKD and Hapkido. Has opened additional locations, and is currently looking to open one in our old hometown. I imagine that will happen post-COVID. I remember walking up to her and asking if we could talk in private, and she said you can say what you need in front of everyone. Her group of friends were all around, so I asked if she wanted to go on a date. She burst out laughing and said yeah, no. Shit was rough, man. Looked her up last year and she's a cage fighter now. What? She turned out great. She married me. We actually met in kindergarten. Still cute as heck, one of the kindest and most sensitive people I know, and still one of my best friends 15 years later. Hess also recently divorced. His wife was gay but needed time and support to come to terms with it, and now he and I are slowly testing the waters. Smile. What started as a crush has matured into a deep and rich friendship, and, however it may unfold, I'm so grateful to have that relationship in my life. Ha. My husband. Our first marriages didn't work out and we reconnected after our divorces. If only I would have confessed I had a crush on him in high school, might have saved myself a lot of trouble. Lol edit. Thanks for the awards, everyone. She has a dog and I don't. He's an attractive gay man. I am none of those things. She was aware then, over 30 years ago, but it was unrequited. We've been in casual contact through Facebook for the past several of years, and once before that my wife, at the time, and I had her and her husband over for dinner. From what I can tell, she's grown into a person I probably would have been happy with. It's nice to see my high school perspective got a few things right. I think we'd be good friends if we lived closer. She appears to be living a good life with her husband and family. With my second wife, I'm happier than I could have ever imagined. Life worked out well. Turns out I was attracted to losers and burnouts. Lol. That hasn't changed much. Turns out he's gay, and got fired from a teaching job for having inappropriate relationships with his male students. She married some idiot and had my babies. I met her in 1987, We got married 5 years ago. We used to go to the same punk shows, that's where met. Began acting. It's weird, every so often I'll see a commercial or something and be like, oh, hey, I know them. My crush is an incredibly sweet person, so I'm glad. We reconnected through Facebook, though I can't stand FB anymore, when in our late 40s, and now she is my wife. She's still beautiful. She's a TikTok influencer who shaved off her eyebrows and draws symbols on her face. Yeah. One is still active duty in the military and she has a very successful career as an officer. I hope she continues to be. The other is successful in the arts and I hope she continues to be that as well. Both are married to others who treat them well. I'm happy that they are both happy. My life is still going good here, so I have no hard feelings. One of them is homeless and a druggie. It's very sad. The other one is famous in his home country, is a best-selling author, and is regularly on TV. Don't have a crush on him anymore, but I'm glad we are still friends, and I'm happy for how well he's done. I guess they balance one another out. Harvard, degrees in writing and medicine, became a leading surgeon in a major city. Extremely proud of her. Always had her on a pedestal. I guess with good reason. Man shrugging, smiley face. Multiple degrees, on track to being a full-time educator, mother of 2, and my wife. I'm so lucky. Turned out to be gay. So did I. Worked out perfectly. I had 2 unrealized crushes in high school. One is a teacher and musician. She is married and has either 1 or 2 kids. We've kept in loose contact via social media and ran into each other at an party shortly before she got married. I was introduced to her now husband as favorite ex ever. He seemed like a decent dude and I'm happy for her. I believe the other became a U.S. attorney. I have not heard from her since Google Plus almost became a social media thing. I imagine she's still very productive and would be disappointed in my life choices. Divorced with 2 kids, I took her and her kids to lunch after meeting her in a mall one day. I hadn't seen her in over 10 years. We caught up on small talk and I asked the kids if they were hungry. They said yes. I just wanted to spend more time with my crush. After lunch I asked if I could see her again. She laughed at me and said I could never go out with someone like you. She said the exact same thing to me in high school. That's my life. I'm not good enough for anybody. She is bisexual and married a woman. She is a speech therapist now. Still really good looking, still a nice person. I am happy her life turned out well. He is still hot. Got a part-time scholarship to study engineer and is dating a Miss Spain runner-up. The same as when we were just leaving school, hence why he is an ex. A racist person who has 3 kids with 3 different women. Glad I was too shy to ever make a move. Married him now, I'm having his baby and Hess making me fondue for Valentine's Day. He's 32 and still works at the same pizza place and is a conspiracy theorist, so I feel like I dodged a bullet. An MLM lady. Anti-vax, glad I got out. Like the majority of my classmates, on drugs and out of trouble. So few have actually made a good life for themselves. Great from the looks of it. I have good taste. It was one of those days where they just suddenly pop into your head and you decide to try and look them up on Facebook. Found him. He ended up being a pilot. Added him and we became Facebook friends. Turns out he has a flight attendant girlfriend and they were traveling together, and then few months after being FB friends they shared the news they were having a baby. Haha. Leathery. Turns out a decade or so working on Hawaii beaches makes you look about 10 years older than you are. Wear sunblock. He's an ardent QAnon-Trump supporter. We're not even American. He got married a few years ago and tried sexting me in January, then blocked me when I said I don't FK with married men and that he was making me uncomfortable. When we dated he was a promising boxer. Now he sells shitty timeshares in Vegas. She committed suicide. Found out later she had a crush on me too. FK life sometimes. What are the odds 2 Redditors are posting about each other in response to this question, unbeknownst to either? Hess always posting average photos on Facebook with douchey artsy captions that make me cringe with his name water stamped on. She's currently unemployed with 3 children and she's in the middle of a divorce. Last I heard she was sleeping with a guy because he was buying her groceries, weed, and helping her make rent. He's been a neo-Nazi for about 10 years. I'm super glad he wasn't interested in me. Not me, but my wife. I was her high school crush, and we reconnected after a decade. I'm working in IT at a company that kept me employed through the pandemic, and she has a master's in special education and is now running a tutoring business. We have 2 cats and a decent apartment. So, could be better, but could be way worse. A couple of years after graduating she realized she was asexual, moved across the country and I believe is now married to another asexual person. Still a big drive. Who fan though, saw a picture of her recently wearing a TARDIS-themed ball gown. She has aged beautifully, has 3 kids and appears perfectly content. Good for her, honestly. My crush turned into a self-righteous prick who still lives with his parents. He became livid when he found out my husband and I had a baby. I apparently was supposed to be his backup plan if he couldn't find anyone better. We split sophomore year, went our separate ways, but still sporadically kept in touch as he prepared to go to Iraq. Years passed, he got divorced, and then my husband passed away in 2019 from a motorcycle accident. We reconnected, and decided to hang out as friends. By the second date, we were inseparable. We live together and are incredibly happy. Hess beyond supportive of my past grief that I still battle sometimes. Hess a great provider, and the most loving selfless person I've known in a very long time. I feel very lucky to have gotten a second chance with my HS crush / first HS boyfriend / first love.